Welcome to Wisdom Outline Coaching. I am Askar Khan, your math coach. In this video, we will understand measurements and bounds, like the upper bound and the lower bound, and how we find these two bounds, the upper bound and lower bound of a measurement. So let's dive into the lesson. Let's look at this. A length is measured as 145 centimeter to the nearest centimeter. Now a length is measured which is 145 centimeter. It is measured to the nearest centimeter. So what is the upper bound of this and the lower bound of this measurement? Because it is measured to the nearest 1 centimeter, so what is half of 1 centimeter? 0.5. So in order to find the upper bound, we will add 0.5 to 145. And in order to find the lower bound, we will subtract 0.5 from 145. And so what will they become? The upper bound now will be 145 plus 0.5, that is going to be 145.5. That's your upper bound. And the lower bound will be 145 minus 0.5, and that's going to be 144.5. This is how you find the upper bound and the lower bound of a measurement. In other words, we can also write this as 144.5 less than or equal to 145 less than 145.5. So 145 centimeters is actually between 144.5 and 145.5 centimeters. Let's try a few more problems to understand how we find the upper bound and the lower bound of a measurement. Let's try this. When measuring the length of a page in a book, you might say the length is 246 millimeters to the nearest millimeter. Now what will be the upper bound and the lower bound of 246 millimeters? Let's try to figure that out. 246 millimeters. Because we have measured it to the nearest 1 millimeter. What is half of 1 millimeter? 0.5 millimeters. So the upper bound will be what? Add 0.5. And the lower bound will be, can you guess? Subtract 0.5 from 246. So the upper bound is 246 plus 0.5. That is going to be 246.5. And the lower bound of 246 will be 246 minus 0.5. That is going to be 245.5. How can we write it in another way? 245.5 less than or equal to 246 less than 246.5. That is how you find the upper bound and the lower bound nearest to 1 millimeter. Basically what you do, whatever the unit is, you need to take half of it, add it for the upper bound, and subtract it for the lower bound. Let's try a few more. Okay, if you say your mass is 57 kg to the nearest kg, what will be the upper bound and the lower bound of 57 kg? Can you do this? You can pause the video and then move on and then play it and see how it goes. Because we are measuring to the nearest 1 kg, 1 unit. What is half of 1 kg? 0.5 kgs. So your upper bound will be add 0.5 and your lower bound will be subtract 0.5 from 57. So upper bound 57 plus 0.5 is going to be 57.5. Lower bound 57 minus 0.5 is going to be 56.5. So how can you write it? 56.5 less than or equal to 57 less than 57.5. That is the way you do it. Let's see what if we have to measure it to the nearest 0.1 unit. Let's check that out. Let's try this. If your brother's mass was measured on a more sensitive scale and the result was 57.2 kg, his actual mass could be within what range? In other words, what is the upper bound and the lower bound of this? Now we are measuring this to the nearest 0.1 unit. So whenever you have to measure something to the nearest 0.1 unit, what is half of 0.1? 0.05. So the upper bound and the lower bound, let's see. The upper bound will be add 0.05 to 57.2 and the lower bound will be subtract 0.05 from 57.2. So what is it going to be now? Upper bound 57.2 plus 0.05. What is that? It's going to be 57.25 kg, of course. And the lower bound, what is it going to be? 57.2 minus 0.05. How much is that? It's going to be 57.15. So these will be the upper bounds and the lower bounds when the measurement is made to 0.1 unit. You take half of it, which is 0.05. For the upper bound, add 0.05. For the lower bound, subtract 0.05. Fine. What if the measurement is made to the nearest 0.001 unit? Let's check that out. Now look at this question. The mass of a butterfly might be given as 0.032 grams. Let's find out what are the upper bounds and the lower bounds of this. Now, we are measuring this to the nearest 0.001 unit. Now, if you want to measure something to the nearest of 0.001 unit, what is half of 0.0001? It is 0.0005. So now, upper bound, add 0.0005 to 0.032. Lower bound, subtract 0.0005 from 0.032 grams. Now quickly do the calculation and tell what is it. This is 0.0325 grams. And the lower bound will be 0.032 minus 0.0005, and that's going to be 0.0315 grams. So this is how you find the upper bound and the lower bounds of 0.001 unit. In short, if you want to find the upper bound and the lower bounds of nearest to 1 unit, when it's measured to nearest to 1 unit, take half of it, which is 0.5. So for upper bound, add 0.5. For the lower bound, subtract 0.5. If you are finding the measurement to the nearest 0.1 unit, take half of it, which is 0.05. So upper bound, add 0.05 to the measurement. Lower bound, subtract 0.05. If you are finding the measurement nearest to 0.01 unit, 0.001 unit, okay, take half of it, and that is going to be 0.0005. So the upper bound, add 0.0005 to it. Lower bound, subtract 0.0005 to it. So basically you take half of the unit, add it for the upper bound, subtract it to the lower bound to find the lower bound. I hope this explains the concept of the lesson in brief in finding the upper bounds and the lower bounds. Thank you for watching the lesson. For math coaching classes for board exams, you can WhatsApp me at the number given in the description below. And thank you for watching this video, and thank yourself for being proactive in learning. You can email me at khan_askar@yahoo.com. Do subscribe to my channel and share it with others, and click the bell button. Thank you.